Episode 78 of People I Know Show. Curt Carstensen joined today by Nick Hopping. Hello, Nick.
Hey, Curt. How are you?
I'm doing well, and nice to meet you. We officially don't know each other like people know each other.
Right.
But over the last couple months, I feel like I've gotten to know you by watching your Instagram videos every single day. For me, It's like, this is a part of my daily routine, and maybe because I like them all every day, they pop up to me right away. But you've been making them, and I have lots of questions for you regarding that. And as the audience comes in, make sure you share this on your timeline. And I guess I'll be doing that shortly as well. But Nick, I'm curious your background, since I don't really know you. You're in comedy now, but has that always been a thing? And what have your been other aspirations throughout life that may be tied into your comedy career?
It has literally always been a thing. So I am 24 right now, and I did my first set when I was 17 in like a high school like thing, like a talent show. And ever since then, I've just always wanted to be a comedian.
And I am here, Nick. I just put you in the screen for a moment. So you always wanted to be a comedian. So this talent shows, were you successful at comedy at that young age?
If you went and watch, I mean, it's like horrible. Like the jokes are so bad and I'm so awkward, but it happened to go really well. And it was, I think, my first set ever. It was in front of my whole high school. It was like 300 people. I think it was the best set I had for like 2 or 3 years after that. Like it was this crazy peak, and then just like, reality set in and open mics and, awfulness. But yeah, I've never even envisioned myself doing anything else. Like I've never been an adult who wasn't really actively trying to do comedy.
What age was your first open mic? And then maybe how long after that did you feel like you're starting to figure it out better than maybe you did when you started? How long does that take for you?
Well, my first open mic was the week after this talent show thing. So I was 17.
Okay.
And for the first, like before you're 18, you can't even get into bars where all the open mics are. So like my mom would have to come and watch me, do all the open mics and just bomb in front of these, 6 grizzled Richmond comedians. I feel like I started to, well, I always felt like I was good, which looking back, it was not the case at all. But yeah, I never was like, oh, I don't get it. I always thought I was way ahead of the curve. But looking, like, I'm sure I'll think where I am now is not good, but from where I am now, I look at it like maybe 3 years in, 2.5, 3 years in. Like when I was in DC doing comedy every night, that's when I'm like, okay, I was sort of getting some chops then.
And how old are you now? How long have you been doing this in DC?
I'm 24. So I did it, like I started when I was 17, but couldn't do that many sets just because Richmond scene is very small, and I was like a kid. By junior year of college, I was getting up multiple times a week, so that would be like 19 or 20. And then I did 2 years in DC where I was getting up at least once a night, and then I moved to New York City 2 years ago, and I've been, going pretty hard at it since then. So I'd say like 4 years of like aggressively, like this is all that I do.
And you still have a day job. Is that related to comedy in any way?
Nope. Day job is like an account rep sort of thing, like telemarketing, sales.
So does that mean you're doing that 40-ish hours a week and all of your free time basically goes to your comedy career?
Yep.
But
yeah, sorry?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say it works out because I work from home with this job, so I have a ton of flexibility. I do essentially nothing else.
Let's get into what's happened with the pandemic. How long did you even have this idea to put a video out every day? And I'll be showing at least one of your videos here shortly.
Yeah.
From the time this idea came to your head before you were committed to it and doing it, what was that like?
Less than 1 day.
Okay.
So I did my last set. I did like a feature set, so like a 30-minute set in Maryland. And then went back up to New York, and this was back in I think this was St. Patrick's Day weekend. So that was my last stand-up set, and I went back to New York, and it just felt uneasy being there, So then my girlfriend and I just packed up that Monday and went down to Virginia. And leaving New York, I just got it just really hit me that I'm not going to get to do stand-up for a long time. So the car ride home, I was like, I need to do something. And I thought of this doing a daily thing I learned video. And then the next day was Tuesday. That was my first video.
Okay, I'm going to play one of them. I have several favorites, and this is one of them. So let me share my screen here. And let's give it a go. This was, I think it was maybe a month or so ago. And I hope the ad will work. I think it will work. But if it doesn't, someone can message in the comments that it didn't.
I'm still learning something new every day of the pandemic. Today I learned about Adam and Eve. People typically assume it was eating an apple that caused God to kick Adam and Eve out of the Garden of Eden. But the Bible never actually specifies what fruit it was.
Adam, I found this fruit you have to try. It's completely forbidden. Look at this. Forbidden fruit is corn. Corn even a fruit? Oh yeah, corn's a fruit. Okay, well it's loose. Are you gonna have some? No, I already had a bunch. I already had my. Trust me, I had so much corn. Just eat the corn. Eat the corn. It's so wet. It needs something. Adam, are you eating loose corn? That's so weird. Sorry. God, no, I'm sorry. I know it's forbidden. It's not forbidden. It's weird. That makes me so uncomfortable. You have to get the fuck out. Both of you. Just get out.
I just realized there was a cuss word in there, but that's okay. I think that's allowed on Facebook and other forms of comedy sometimes.
I think so.
Okay, so that's a perfect example because you're pushing some boundaries there with comedy tends to do, taking putting your personification of God, but also I like that you're playing all these characters and it's ridiculous in some ways. The way that you're not doing a lot of time on wardrobe. Not that you should have a great wardrobe available for all these, but I think that adds to the humor and adds to the appeal for me at least.
Yeah, how on purpose DIY it is. Just how do it yourself it is. It's kind of just the no production quality.
To me, that makes it funnier, and the fact that you're knowing that you're doing these every single day. That I don't know. I mean, how much time do you spend on an episode every day, anyhow?
Well, the hardest part is going from nothing to the premise. So I scour all of these listicles that are fun facts, and watch every YouTube video that's weird facts about something, or I'll try to look up weird statistics, and just trying to find something that is universal enough. Where I don't have to spend a lot of time explaining the premise, but also could be fun. That takes forever. And then usually once I have the premise, writing the punchlines, that's easy. Filming only takes 10, 15 minutes, and then editing maybe an hour, depending on like that one was tough because there's a lot of splicing back and forth. But some of them where it's just me talking into the camera, that can take 20 minutes.
So with that, I learned... Apparently, is everything you say in there truthful? Are you truly telling facts that we don't know, like corn is a fruit, or is that just for comedy and to throw me off?
No, corn is, I think there's different classifications of fruit depending on, there's the nutritional fruit, and then there's also if you were a botanist or something, if you were into plants, that has a different definition of fruit. So there is a lens through which you could look at corn and it would be a fruit.
Okay.
So I usually the initial premise is usually a true fact, and then any other thing I say that's true from that point is just nonsense I made up.
Okay. So I shouldn't be taking your videos as educational videos after the first 12 seconds or so.
Right.
Okay.
But you should take them as educational videos for the first 12 seconds. Yeah.
So tell me,
I had a mustache. So if you're going to take away something from that, it is that I can grow a mustache.
Yeah, I noticed. I wonder if you're one of my inspirations. I used to have longer hair, and I shaved it maybe a few weeks or a month after one of your first episodes involved you shaving your head.
Yeah, totally bald too.
Yeah, it was like next to nothing left. And obviously this pandemic's going on a while because both of us have a reasonable amount of hair again.
Yeah, right. Like back. Yeah.
And our hairlines
Yeah,
are,
that's depressing.
it's a little more similar than I'd thought before
Oh,
putting.
I think yours is better than mine. Mine's a mess. Are you keeping it up top?
Yeah, I'm not losing any hair up here.
Oh, that's big. I'm starting to get a little hole, and it's very demoralizing.
The hole probably doesn't get any smaller.
But shaving it all off was actually very freeing. You know, now I know that if I do go completely bald, like it'll be okay. You know,
Yeah,
the sun will keep rising and stuff.
Yeah, that was a realization for me too, that maybe I can pull this look off. I never had shaved my head since I had a beard, and I realized with a beard, a shaved head makes a little more.
It's not that bad. Yeah.
That was like video, I don't know, sometime in the first week. Now you've done 2 months worth, maybe just a day past 2 months. And
yesterday was episode 62, yeah.
62. And I'm wondering how many days you've woken up or been halfway through the day and thought, why am I doing this? Does that happen to you, or every day
yeah.
you do it?
No, most of the day, especially lately. I don't know if you've noticed, but the videos keep coming out later and later because I'm procrastinating more and more. Yeah, I would say there's like maybe once a week where I'll come up with an idea early in the morning and I'm really excited about it, and then it's easy. But most days it's such a pain and I don't want to do it. And yeah, and then it's a hard, you know, comedy's supposed to be fun and funny, and I'm sitting there like I start to get anxious because I haven't done the video yet, and I just keep reading through these fun facts, getting more and more upset at the fun facts that they're not comedy, you know, like a good muse. Yeah, so it's tough. But I think having to do it once a day though is good. I think if I didn't have to do it every day, then I would have stopped doing it completely by now.
And that was one of the reasons I wanted to have this conversation with you. And I'm going to get into the drive or obligations shortly. And fortunately, the association lawn crew is out mowing my lawn, so I'm not sure if the lawnmower is coming through the audio. Hopefully not. And I shouldn't have brought it up. But I'm curious. So 62 days in a row, the pandemic, depending on how you define the pandemic, it might go on a very long time. What has been, or have you not decided, what is your measurement for when the pandemic video making for you would end? Have you thought about that a lot?
A little. I'm thinking whenever I can start doing stand-up again, that's when the videos will stop.
And how is that? Are you on the schedule anywhere, or is that something that you can really set up right now? What's that looking like?
I'm actually supposed to be in a couple comedy festivals, one in Ohio, and actually in 2 weeks, and then one in North Carolina, but it just depends on if they get canceled. I have no idea.
And I suppose they won't tell you that until
I don't know.
They know.
I haven't heard.
The state. I suppose the state's laws or rules are changing all the time. That I don't think anyone wants to make these determinations any sooner than they have to, knowing that they've already canceled so much and haven't made income for a long time. I know in Minnesota here, just yesterday, some of the rules were beginning to be relaxed, and in 2 weeks again. I guess we'll find out if it keeps going that direction.
Mm-hmm.
And you are in Virginia. So what has that been for the state? Have they been one of the more strict states or not, based on your observation?
I've been reaching out to a lot of comedy friends just around the country. And we seem like kind of in the middle. Like there are a couple of places where comedy clubs are back in some capacity, like limited amount of people can come in. Virginia doesn't have any of that. But if I was to jump back in, it would probably be like bar shows at first. And that doesn't seem to be happening anywhere.
What's like the biggest venue that you've performed at in your career so far? How far have you traveled, and what are some of the big venues that you've been at?
Well, just in terms of number of people, there's this place in Virginia, like Northern Virginia, called the State Theater. I think they seat between 300 and 500. I've done comedy clubs that seat a couple hundred, but I'm in New York right now, which it's like the audience size is so small. You'll do shows for like 6 people, and like I run a weekly that gets 40 or 50 people. Well, I did. I don't know if it was at this ice cream place. I don't know if they're in business anymore, but yeah. So I'd say my average audience size is like 20 to 50. That's kind of normal.
Okay. And what are you recognizing about yourself going back pre-pandemic in your stand-up comedy? Do you find it, you think you're getting a lot better, getting more feedback? Like, how quickly does that happen? I've had another comedian on before, and I know it takes a long time to really maybe catch a break or really feel like you're getting good at it. What's that experience been like for you?
In stand-up specifically, or like these videos and stuff?
I'd say stand-up specifically, then we'll get back into the videos.
Yeah. No, I think it seems, and I'm not the first to say this, but it seems like the key is just get as many reps as you can. You want to try to like tighten the feedback loop as much as possible. Just get up, try stuff, see how it works. Every once in a while, I'll feel like I've hit some kind of stride and that I've grown. I'm like, okay, I am better today than I was last week. But most of the time, I don't really notice. It's only when I go back and look at old videos where I'm like, oh, I sucked. And now I don't feel that I suck. So that must be good.
Yeah, I think that's common. Anytime you're creating something, if you go back any amount of time, hopefully you think, oh, I sucked back then, because that means
right,
improving.
Yeah, but it's very incremental growth, I think.
Okay.
Most of the time.
And what about the video? 62 days in, I know some days is a struggle. Do you feel like you're becoming a better writer now?
Yeah. I think I'm writing differently. Like, I've noticed in the beginning, the episodes were more like stand-up jokes, where it would just be sort of talking, and then like one punchline right at the end. Even if it was a visual punchline. Like, I think the one where I learned that snapping is actually like my mom clapping, that is very much set up like a setup and then a surprise punchline. Whereas now I think they're something more approximating like sketch comedy, where I'll set up like more of a scenario and then have characters kind of interact within the rules of the scenario.
Do you notice, are other people doing anything like you're doing? Have you come across anybody putting out content as frequently or even nearly as frequently?
I don't think I've seen anybody doing a video every single day. I see people who do podcasts will sometimes do a lot of podcasts, but I haven't seen anybody doing what I'm doing. And people who do make videos, it'll be like once a week at most. Actually, I take that back. I take that back. A comedian I know from New York, Hannah Boone, is doing a video every day that's like people submit questions and she answers them in funny ways. So you should check that out. It's very funny.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd imagine not doing stand-up for 2 months leaves you a lot less fresh than you used to be.
I'm so anxious about it. Yeah. I probably suck now. I don't know.
Do you think you'll be able to incorporate any of these jokes, video jokes, into your stand-up?
I have no idea. Probably not. Or if I can, it would be a pleasant surprise, but I don't. That's not my aim.
I started following you on Instagram, and I think maybe I was following some other comedians, so you maybe followed me first initially, and then I followed you back.
Okay.
And then I started liking your videos. Otherwise, I might have unfollowed you. I think sometimes I don't stick with people very long, but I like the videos right away, so I stuck with it. What's it like trying to grow? Like my Instagram, both my personal and my podcast one, I don't grow it very fast. And I guess I haven't spent a lot of time trying to learn how to do it. As a comedian putting something out every day, I would think you have the material to really start picking up steam, but is that happening for you, or what's your experience been like with that?
I've been doing okay. I like nothing's really, I've had a couple do well on like Reddit, but I'm definitely like Instagram. I seem to be getting, I don't know, 5-10 new followers a week or something. So it's like not huge growth, but I try not to think about it. If I let myself start thinking about how the algorithm works and like what content should I be making and all the like, when's the best time, it's just such a bottomless, black hole of effort. And it makes it. I am so much less happy when I worry about that than when I just make a video and put it out and then not worry about it.
Okay, I think that's the right attitude, because ultimately, if you're getting better and people like you, somewhere along the line, it'll pick up dramatically, I would think.
Yeah, and I'm putting out a video every day, so if it hurt my feelings every single day when one of them didn't do well, like that would be completely unsustainable.
Yeah, I get it. I want to go to the question that I was pondering before I observed you putting these videos out later and later in the day, as you mentioned. And it was this thing with me, and I haven't worked my normal job in 2 months, so I'm at home a lot. I've been putting out a podcast every week, which is normal. I've been doing these live videos for like 7 or 8 weeks as a way to try something different and try to connect with a few more people.
Right.
And I had the thought, am I driven to do this or am I obligated to do this? And I think maybe somehow you've covered it a little bit with your feelings about making these videos some days, but I'm wondering, do you think about that? Do you think about how driven you are to do comedy compared to the days that you're obligated? Because I feel like the days that I feel obligated to do something, it starts to really bring me down. And I know mental health and staying at home all the time, I know those things are kind of tying together. What's your experience been like in that regard, if you even give it any thought?
Yeah, I don't know if I framed it quite in those terms, but it sounds like, have you ever read the I think it's called the War of Art?
I think another person on my podcast brought it up a while back, and I have not read it yet.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of, if I remember correctly, the premise was sort of like the difference between an amateur artist and a professional artist is the amateur waits for inspiration, but a professional just does the work. So that's how I try to look at it. I don't try to worry too much, like what specifically is motivating me to do it. I just do it because I know if I don't do it, I won't get really good.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know if, like, you don't know how much growth you're going to get from each individual video you do or open mic you do, but I know for a fact if I don't do them, I will get no growth.
That's a very good point.
That's how I look at that. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know also if there's like such a dichotomy between being driven and obligated. Like, I'm driven in a larger sense to be a very good comedian. Like that's the end I want. So with that comes like an obligation to sort of put in the work every day, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So
have you felt like, what does it mean to you? Like when you, on a day you're feeling obligated, how is that different than on a day you're feeling driven?
I've been trying to figure this out lately. I recognize in the mornings, I'm not naturally driven, which kind of scares me. Some occasionally, but a lot, like getting in the routine of being home all the time, knowing that I have all day to do the things I want to do. As we get in the afternoon and the evening, that's when I get more and more productive. And that's always kind of been me.
Yeah.
And when I'm having these deep thoughts, it's probably in the morning when it's like, why do I not feel like doing this right now when I thought I wanted to do it? And I kind of go back and forth. But then I do something like after or during I'm doing something like this, it creates a new kind of excitement. It's like, oh yeah, I like doing this. I like connecting with people. And my podcast, usually it's people I know relatively well or I've spent some time with. And you are one of like 4 people I've never met in person, but I've asked to be on just because I'm curious about something that you're doing. And I see you working so hard to do as much as you can during the pandemic. And I'm fascinated by it. And I think it's inspiring to me to see someone else creating and doing it well. So I want to get to know you. And it's exciting for me to see you on Instagram a couple months ago and then just think, oh, I'll ask him on my podcast. And he'll probably say, yes, I was thinking, and he did. So now we're having a conversation and people get to listen to us and hear about your thoughts. And now hearing you talk about your drive and your obligation, I think that'll help me maybe reconsider the way that I look at it. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I just, I think the thing is just do it. No matter how you feel. Although I have found, I read this other book about it. I am like you. I work much better at night, and I think my default state is just as lazy as one could be. So I'm always battling that. But I found if you can get to a point where you don't think of what you're doing as work, but as more like sort of structured play almost, like these videos are so dumb, and the days I find I'll catch myself taking them seriously, and then I kind of have to step back and be like, it doesn't matter. Like, the best, like the best videos are the silliest, dumbest ones. So like, it makes no sense to sit here and be anxious and like, freak out about how it's going.
You've involved other people in some of these, people that you were probably staying at home with, whether it's your family or I think your girlfriend. Are they thrilled to be involved, or they're obligated to be involved?
They're very obligated. Yeah, I think they like the one you played. The reason I am playing both characters is because my girlfriend was just sick of it that day, and she was like, "Put on a towel. I don't care. I'm not being, Eve in your stupid thing." She is very supportive, by the way. My whole family is very supportive, but I get that it wears on them.
Understandable. So are you like the funny person in the family, or do you say that everyone's kind of funny and that adds to your ability to be funny?
In my immediate family, I'm the funny one, I would say. I have a little brother who is funny. He's not like stand-up funny, but he's like a good storyteller and, talks loud and makes a big racket when he talks, which is like amusing, I guess. Yeah, I would say I'm the funny one. My girlfriend's funny.
Any other people in your family that have ever tried stand up or tried go to an open mic with you and just to see what it's like? I've thought about, I think one of my bucket list things, I don't see myself as a comedian, but I realize I probably should do at least one open mic at some point just to see what it's like to go up there and probably bomb.
I got my mom to do it, actually.
And how did that go?
Good. It was this the premise of the show was called like Momics. So it was like I went up and did a set, and then your mom goes up and like follows you. And she did good. We worked for maybe a month, kind of writing a 5-minute act for her. Yeah, and it was good. I don't think stand up is at all like how people imagine it will be. Like, I think people, and it's kind of hard for me to, I guess, remember what it's like to not have done it, but I think people see it like when you're being funny around your friends. Everybody's having fun and you just have this momentum because you're all friends. But when you actually get up on stage, it's like, there's nothing. You're so like deflated, and you have to create all the energy from zero. It feels different than I think people imagine.
I think when I'm funny, it's by observing things around me, especially people that I know that can take a joke and making fun of them or making fun of myself in that situation. So I think I would find it challenging to go up there and be strictly a storyteller or a joke teller.
Yeah.
What would you say is when are you funniest, either as a comic or just as a person? When do you think you're making people laugh the most naturally?
I mean, I'm not really a story guy. I definitely err on like I tell jokes, but I am doing the comedy that I like the most when it's just really silly. Like, I think some of the videos are a good example of that, where you laugh, but it's so dumb that you're also just like, Jesus Christ. Like, that's what I aspire to.
Who is your favorite comedian, or the comedian that inspires you the most in that way? Someone that you want to emulate some aspect of their career?
Well, in terms of just silliness, I love Rory Scovel. It's just so silly, and he's kind of improv-y, I guess. But I don't know. I look up to just all of the people you'd think I look up to. The big famous people.
What about feedback from others? I like going back to the drive and obligation thing. Like, I feel like I am driven to do the things I do, but when I recognize that anyone out there, some people out there really appreciate what I'm doing, that does give me a big boost. But then I'm wondering, based on your comment earlier, does that make me more amateurish, where I need that, and where like the professional just ignores all of that? Is that important to you at all? The people that are really liking your work and telling you?
Yeah. I mean, if people if they were all bombing, like no one liked it, I would probably have stopped.
Yeah.
That's definitely in the equation, but and I'm not like that far into comedy. I mean, there are people who are way more experienced than I am, but I have noticed even in my short, lifespan as a comedian that just random strangers' opinion means less. Like if I'm on stage and like I bomb, that sucks. But it used to be if some random person came up and was like, "I liked your set," I would just be like elated. And now it's kind of like, I mean, it's nice, but it's not gonna change my day. Now I'm more like, if a comedian that I respect says they like something that I did, that I will hold on to that. Like I've worked with headliners, and I'll have like the sets will go however, and I'll forget, but then I'll make the headliner laugh like once, just in conversation, and like that's what I took from the weekend.
Okay. As long as you know that you can make a funny person laugh, you're doing it right.
I think so.
So what else would you do with your time if you're not spending, or what else do you do with your time when you're not creating comedy? What's any other hobbies or passions that you like that maybe filter into your comedy at some point?
Well, this was so hard. To be good at stand-up, you have to do it all the time, but also you have to have some kind of a life outside of stand-up to talk about. And I've noticed, especially in New York, people, and myself included, really struggle with that. I mean, if you only do, like, I just do comedy all the time. So, like, I like a couple of video games. I bought rollerblades, but I don't, aside from comedy, I don't have any other like burning passions or even dedicated hobbies, really. So yeah, you become a weird person.
Just lately, I've kind of sworn off TV and Netflix mostly for a long time. And just the last few days, I've decided to dip back into it a little bit, watching educational things that I'm like, maybe this will help me in some way. And I'm very much out of pop culture in a lot of ways. I like popular music. If it's played at me, I'll hear it and maybe learn about it. Movies, I'm aware of a lot of titles, but I've seen almost none of the big ones, sadly. And the best TV shows that everyone's watched, I have not watched. Right. It sounds like you're kind of in the same boat, but I wonder if relating to audiences, sometimes knowing some of that would be helpful.
Very much. Like I honestly feel this is a crutch. I don't know, and I'm not interested in knowing about sports. So I have no references. I don't get references when they're made. Just talking to new people, like that would be such a nice, like, in with people, and I just don't have it. So yeah, I think that would be helpful to be more like aware.
Well, I grew up as a huge sports fan, probably to a fault. Can't change it now, but I think if I wasn't such a huge sports fan, I think some of my pop culture background would be better. Now at this point in my life, I'm okay that no sports are going on right now, personally, selfishly. I know other people are being hurt by it, so when they start, good for everybody that's helped. But I find them to be a huge distraction because they take up a lot of time.
Yeah.
So don't think of it as too much of a bad thing, but maybe find a way to learn a little bit about something. But I think the most important thing when it comes to sports, and I think for live comedy, being in the comedy club, and a comedian's usually funnier in the comedy club, in part because of the atmosphere of other people laughing. It really brings something out, I think, comedically. But the same thing, going to a sporting event, maybe, but going to a sporting event that everyone else in the stadium or the arena thinks is super, super important. I think people that don't really get into sports might finally recognize why in that environment, because it's the people around you that really, there's this energy that it's hard to deny when you're a part of an environment. Like, if you don't get it, like, I think you want to figure it out if you have any curiosity. Yeah. So, but we won't be going to any packed arenas or stadiums anytime soon. So I don't know that now's a good time to try that.
Yeah. No, I definitely feel that. I mean, I've been to like live sporting things, obviously, like I'm not a big baseball fan, but every time I'm at a baseball game, I'm just like, oh, we're all having fun. I'm having fun. Like I just like the vibe, but I don't watch the game. I just look at everybody else watch the game.
And that's what I do too. Even though baseball used to be my biggest favorite sport. Now, when I go to like a Minnesota Twins game, when those things happen again, the baseball is more or less meaningless. It's a social outing. It's a nice day. It's a reason to have a drink and eat some terrible food.
Yeah.
But if you were to go to a World Series game or something, it'd be totally different. Everyone would be focused in on the baseball, and it's a totally different thing.
Right.
So that's the experience for the non-sports fans out there. I can understand why you don't like sports, but if you somehow get a chance to see like the main event of a sport postseason sometime, it'll probably change the way you look at sports.
Yeah, and I know people have told me this is dumb, but I just feel like I'm too late. I wasn't into it as a kid, and now the amount I would have to learn about any given sport, it's just like way too much homework. I'm like, I don't know.
I get it. Yeah, that's the same reason why, even though everyone's loved Game of Thrones or dozens and dozens of other good TV shows, I can't imagine starting from the beginning now and how long that would take, even though it wouldn't take that long. It just seems like, I'll skip that and do something else.
Yeah. Same thing.
Nick, at the end of my episodes, I have a couple segments. I'm going to combine them into one for today. I have a personal growth segment because I started this podcast in many ways talking to people that have advanced my personal growth because of something they've taught me or something they've gotten me to do. But I also do a being wrong segment, which has to do with things that I can look back on now and say that I was wrong about, or in other words, things I've changed my mind about. So I'm going to boil them down into one, and you can take it one or both directions if you want. When it comes to your personal growth or your being wrong, what's something big, like a story from your life that comes to mind that you think is useful to tell others about?
Just when I was wrong?
Yeah, wrong, or
and I grew from it,
or something that you've been working on and you think other people haven't picked up on this yet, and you kind of want to tell them this is important.
Okay.
I'd imagine this applies to you. I don't know if everyone looks at it the same way that I do, but I think it's just the idea that I'm always trying to get a little bit better in some way at something, and many times actually trying to get better at a lot of different things at once. Maybe too many at once is kind of the problem at times.
Yeah. I mean, I've been working on, like, with stand-up, I get, and I think a lot of people like this, if I'm not doing stand-up all the time, I start to get really anxious that I'm falling behind, not any other person, but like how theoretically good I could become. So it kind of detracts from anything else I do. Like anytime I even go out to eat and with like my girlfriend or something and spend a night not doing stand-up, I can't leave it. You know, I'm still thinking about stand-up, and I'm freaking out about that I'm not doing it. And I would say I used to think that was the right approach. I was like, that's what makes people good. And I have learned, or I'm at least trying to learn, that is not the best way to do it. Like, you know, when you are working on something, work hard on it, focus on it, and then let yourself step away. Like, I hate doing it, but every time I do take a break, I feel I get something from it. And that does not count for this pandemic thing, by the way. I hate this. This sucks. But, you know, other times.
Yeah, I think the pandemic for me has been a nice big reset, because coming out of this, if there's anything that I used to do that I don't want to do anymore, I think I'll realize it and maybe make a shift. I think it's an automatic reset button for the people like you and I that have been spending way more time at home. I assume you have than normally. I guess if you're not going to comedy clubs most or every night, that's definitely the case.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think most people that I observe, not everybody, I'm sure, but the phone kind of serves as what you're talking about on a micro level. Like every time you're looking at your phone, it's kind of taking you away from the thing that you should be focusing on in that moment. At least that's my experience.
Yeah.
So I've tried to, at times at least, block off time to do my phone stuff and then just put my phone away so I can focus on the other thing. And I think that relates back to what you're talking about. And when you're not doing the thing that you feel like you should be doing, just be done with it and focus on one thing at a time, basically.
Yeah. And there's a lot of times I feel anxious about taking time away from comedy, because really I didn't spend my whole day like honestly working. I was just kind of dicking around on my phone. And then I end up essentially taking it out on my family and stuff by being anxious because I didn't do what I was supposed to do. So yeah, definitely, if you can find a way to be disciplined and when you are working, actually work. You know, I so many times will do this where I'm like writing, but really I'm just sitting at my desk, you know, texting for 3 hours. And then they're like, well, do you want to go out? You've written for 3 hours. And I'm like, yeah, but I didn't like write anything. You know, I mostly just was on YouTube or something. So yeah, I think that's related.
I think that's a common experience. And maybe there's people that somehow avoid that and they're maybe doing really well in some way and perhaps they're struggling in some other way. But just hearing other people talk about it, like, yep, that happens to me too, is both a reminder that this is a problem perhaps, but also I'm not alone and I shouldn't feel too bad like I'm some weirdo. Maybe we're just a big group of weirdos that are struggling to get through this and figure this like the phone thing that's become far too prominent in our lives in some ways, and of course change our lives dramatically for the better in other ways. And between that topic and the drive versus obligation, I'm curious if anyone has comments, leave them here on the live video, or I want to see emails, peopleiknowshow@gmail.com. And I'll be posting in the show notes on the podcast how to find you, Nick. But where would you like people to find you at online to see your comedy and to see where you'll be doing stand-up again when that's a thing again?
I guess Instagram is the best, at Nick Hopping Comedy. Hopping is spelled like how you think it's spelled.
That's where I found you first, and yeah, give them a follow. And you've got, let's see, 60 videos, about a minute a piece. That's 1 hour. We've all wasted an hour on our phone some other way. So be slightly more productive at least and watch Nick's videos for 1 straight hour.
Yeah.
You learn a lot. You learn a lot in the first 15 seconds, and then the last 45 seconds, you'll be making stuff up that makes you laugh.
Nonsense. Yeah, just nonsense. Yep.
Well, this has been great, Nick. Thank you for providing me with entertainment for the last 2 months and however long that you continue to do it on the Instagram. And thank you for the conversation today.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.